As of now, Mark Knopfler, the quiet artist who used to be at the center of Dire Straits' music, has broken his silence. He avoided debate for decades, but now he's opened up, and what he showed is darker, messier, and much more dramatic than fans ever thought. It's impossible for them to get back together because of what he said, and Knopfler brings up old grudges, fights, and wounds that never healed. Behind the smooth guitar licks and arena anthems was a storm of egos, betrayals, and anger that broke up the band and left Knopfler to carry both the group's reputation and his own personal demons in the music world. Think about it, it's 1977 in Deptford, London. With Sultans of Swing, four young guys who were having a hard time making ends meet become famous all over the world. What at first looked like a friendship quickly turned into a battleground. Because Knopfler wrote most of the songs and led the band, his bandmates often said he was controlling, distant, and unwilling to share the stage. Music, Mark's brother David Knopfler quit early because he couldn't handle Mark's control, and that, music, angry split never healed. There were rumors of fights in the studio, anger toward the music growing on tour buses, and quiet plots against the band behind the scenes. The flaws got worse with success, and by the mid-1980s, Dire Straits wasn't really a band anymore. They were more like a machine that ran on stress. Behind the scenes, Dire Straits had a lot of problems with bad relationships. Alan Clark on keyboards and John Illsley on bass did their best to be loyal at first, but they often disagreed with Knopfler about creative choices. Mark was so hard on himself that sessions broke down, and weeks of recording were thrown out because he thought a note was wrong. His insistence on endless music takes made everyone tired and angry, and meetings that should have been fun turned into orals. Members of the band said he was too controlling, but Knopfler D. Music said they were just not dedicated and careless. The split got worse when people argued over who wrote the song and who should get more of the earnings. During the Brothers in Arms era, when the band's songs made them famous all over the world, fights broke out. Some members wanted to enjoy the perks of fame, like fancy parties, living it up on the road, and breaks from the grind. But Knopfler wanted tight discipline and quiet professionalism. Many people felt like hired hands instead of equal partners as his power overshadowed their efforts, which made them more angry. Behind the smiles on the music stage, there were angry fights, slammed doors, and long nights of sad quiet. Money problems, fragile egos, and different ways of life made the environment poisonous, and more people in the group started to think that Knopfler, Music, cared more about his power and image than about keeping the band together. Dire Straits was the biggest band in the world by 1991, but they were also the most broken up. It was terrible to go on tours. There were endless arguments, long stretches of quiet, and a leader who became more and more distant. It all began with a guitar and an amp. When Pete Townshend plays chords on your song, you know they'll stay played. He's one of my favorite guitar players. Others loved the Fame show, but Knopfler hated it, and that fight broke up the last bits of friendship. Music, it was like a negotiation every practice and sound check. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. On the outside, stage shows looked great, but behind the curtains, there were cold silences and angry comments. The final blow came with the music on every street walk, where tiredness and anger were louder than the music. Hotels turned into battlegrounds for music, and long tours on tour buses turned into long stretches of silence or angry music exchanges. Instead of being the band's celebratory win lap, what should have been a fun time became a hard music session that made them hate each other. By the end, members barely talked to each other, and Knopfler, who had reached a tone of exhaustion and was angry, pulled away completely. Dire Straits quietly broke up, which shocked music fans but not the band's members. Reunions were talked about for years, but Knopfler's dislike for his old partners grew stronger over time. Every offer to get back together with her felt like opening an old wound again, and as the years went by, he became more adamant about turning them down. Today, through song, he makes it very clear. Too many cuts. Too many bridges have been burned, and the band's songs will never be heard again. But Knopfler's problems didn't end with being in terrible shape. Music, besides the group, he had fights with producers, promoters, and even other artists who didn't like how detached he was in his music. His partnerships often ended in tension, with stories of projects being shelved in the middle because of artistic differences. When Knopfler wanted to have the final say on arrangements for film soundtracks and joint shows, partners who were hoping for a compromise in the music got angry. He got into arguments with record executives over money issues because he wouldn't write hits when they asked him to. This made them see him as difficult and unwilling to follow the rules of the business. People started to think of him as someone who would rather back out of deals than do what everyone else wanted. It was said that even music giants like Eric Clapton and Bob Dylan, who he admired, found it hard to work with Knopfler. His insistence on control often killed the spirit of working together. People who worked in the studio remember late nights when Knopfler would redo whole takes without notice, ignoring the music contributions of other musicians as not being precise enough. Music promoters talked about how he wouldn't play certain venues or events if the conditions weren't right, which caused anger and ended relationships in the music world. The man who seemed calm on the outside wasn't willing to bend. And his rigidity cost him friendships, chances, music, and the chance to make meaningful musical partnerships that would last past hard times. When Knopfler wasn't in the spotlight, his life as a musician was just as rough. His constant touring and love of music caused his marriages to fall apart, leaving behind a trail of broken trust and sadness. Partners got tired of living with his guitar playing in the background, and being away from him all the time made it harder for them to get close. Family relationships were tense because Knopfler's fame put a wall between him and his loved ones. Siblings and children often felt ignored while he was busy with his work. Insiders say that there were times when Knopfler seemed to be happier working alone in the studio than at home, which made him feel lonely in his personal life as well. The worry of never-ending schedules not only made things worse, but it also hurt his health, making him tired and anxious. Financial, music, disputes, fights over royalties, bad investments, and the constant stress of handling fame's wealth made things even worse. Friends remember a man whose fame seemed to hold him back instead of setting him free. He was a star loved by millions, but behind closed doors he was struggling with loneliness. For someone who sang about everyday life with poetic grace, his private life was full of conflict, loneliness, and the knowledge that his songs made a warm picture of life that he could not always live. There is a man named Knopfler, music, who is haunted by the fame he, music, made, but fans often see him as the reluctant star. Dire Straits' huge fame became a drag he could never get rid of, and every time he tried to go solo, the band he left followed him. He felt the ghost of his brothers in arms with him in every studio, interview, and stage he tried to take on by himself. Critics praised his skill as an artist, but they also pointed out how cold he seemed and how he never seemed to be able to let go of the past. It seemed like he was always looking back with a mix of anger and sorrow in his heart. Knopfler didn't enjoy memories, instead, he wore it like a chain. When fans asked for a reunion, old grudges with his brother David, unsolved music fights over royalties, and the anger over lost friendships came back to the surface. Music, even though his guitar playing became famous, the loneliness of those broken relationships stayed. There was no doubt that he was a great singer. Music, but the stories that were being told about him were about a man who couldn't forgive or forget. Just think about it, most artists lean on their past songs to feel better. But for Knopfler, the past was a battleground that would not let go. Every new record made him think of how bad things were. Music, and each award made the people who used to stand with him more quiet. Instead of warm memories of music, the Dangerous Straight story is still one of breaks, silences, and a shadow that hangs over his legacy to this day. Today, Knopfler has made it clear. Dire Straits will never get back together. In music, the scars of band fights, the anger of siblings, and the weight of personal battles are too heavy to undo. Music, Knopfler sees it as freedom, while fans see it as sadness. Music, his ears are tired of rumors about possible tours, million-dollar deals, music, and reporters' never-ending questions. To him, those memories are not valuable things, they are like music ghosts that follow him around. He thinks of the stage they used to share as dangerous music ground where trust was broken and friendship was lost. Think about the music fans who wish they could get free money or see their brothers in arms again. Knopfler, music, says it's just a dream. Besides the fights in music, all he sees is anger and betrayal that can't be covered up with memories. It's clear to him. The band Dire Straits was never a family, their music was more like a fragile union held together by success and broken by ego. The music industry was in the middle of a storm when fans thought it was all peace. Think about this. People now remember one of the best bands of all time for how quiet they were as much as for how loud they were. The dream is over,
and Knopfler's silence is finally broken,
leaving behind a story full of genius, deception, and the high cost of fame. Even though music knows his legacy is safe, he still decides to stay away from reconciliation.
Giving up on bad situations doesn't make him feel bad. It's a matter of staying alive.